Yep, this is Urban Politics, and I'm your humble host, Phys Ed Music. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday afternoon, but this will be reaching you on a Monday, but it's all good. You know what it is. Urban Politics, where politics lives. I want to thank all you people who've been liking and subscribing. Please keep doing that. Like and subscribe. Leave your comments right after this video. Please, no need to rate, right? It's right there, right in your head. You know what I'm saying? Whether you agree or disagree with something I've said, go ahead, you know what I'm saying, and drop it in the comments below. Let's go ahead and get right into this like a car and drive. There's all types of tasty politics to get into this week. Let's get right into it. Unfortunately, the talk of the town and the talk of the day is still the Afghanistan situation, which is a bad situation. There's a suicide bomber there, killed like 170 people. 13 of them were Americans. There's a group, ISIS-K, taking responsibility for the bombing, to reflect on it. Bush Jr. took us there. Biden brought us home. We've been there through like 4 presidents. We've been there. It was Bush Jr., then it was Barack, then it was Trump, and then it was Biden, who said he wasn't going to kick the can down the road to a 5th president. It is what it is. Bush Jr. took us over there, Republican. A Democrat, Obama, could not bring us home, but he couldn't get a lot done because in the end there he had a Republican Congress. Trump negotiated a horrible deal, and I'm going to go into that later why I say that. And Biden adhering to that deal and of the mind that it was just time to get out of there after 20 years. Saying he's been doing some things. So it is what it is. It's a horrible situation. I laugh to keep from crying. There was probably no way to get out of this without there being some casualties. There was no way to get out of this without there being some casualties. Just, no one wanted it. You'd hope, wishful thinking that you could get out of there without having any casualties, but that's just not realistic. So it is what it is. 20 years, $2 trillion later, we don't have an embassy. And I say that because a military friend of mine years ago told me that. He said, a friend of mine who's in the military, I've never served. So a friend of mine who's in the military told me that. He said, Ed, anytime we go anywhere, we're there forever. He said, we're going to leave an embassy and there's going to be some kind of military presence there forever. And that's usually how it is, but we usually put a whole lot of money and stuff into these different places. So I guess the least we can get out of it is an embassy where, some Americans can take up residence in this foreign land forever. We did not get this here, but so many other people have went there and tried to do their thing in Afghanistan and failed and fell flat on their faces. That's a history lesson you can take one day. You can Google that. It's ridiculous. So, and their civilization is thousands of years old. America's a couple of 100 years old. Their civilization is thousands of years old. So think about that. Just think about that. So I said what I said about Trump because Trump agreed or made an agreement with the Taliban, excluding the Afghan government, which he shouldn't have did. He freed 5,000 imprisoned Taliban soldiers and set a May 1st withdrawal date. And then Biden came along and he changed that withdrawal date to August 31st. Both of them messed up with that. You should never give a withdrawal date. You don't ever want to tell your enemy when you're leaving. You know what I'm saying? Here's an analogy I'm going to draw because I work with kids. That's the equivalent of being in a room with a kid who's turning out. He don't want to do his work. He's just flipping over tables. He's turning out, right? And you tell him, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Well, in an hour, I'm out of here. In an hour, I'm gone. So you better get your act together because in an hour, I'm leaving. All you told him is I could keep cutting up until an hour and then you're going to be gone. So that's what these two gentlemen did. Basically, you letting them know that, we can keep acting a fool until, these withdrawal dates. And when you leave, you leave. Now you're gone. Ain't even got to worry about you no more. So it is what it is. So they shouldn't have did that. And then it seems that they withdrew the military before they withdrew citizens. I don't get that either. I guess because they wanted to adhere to these different dates. But even if August 31st it came, Mr. Biden, I would not have been withdrawing troops if all the Americans aren't out. If civilians aren't out yet, I'm not going to withdraw my troops, even if in the deal I said I withdraw my troops by a certain time. Hey, well, things have changed. I still have people who are behind enemy lines. I still need my troops there to make sure that they get out from behind enemy lines. I'm not in government, so I don't know what's up with that. But if you know anything, please leave a comment after the video. Anyway, moving on. The Supreme Court voted to end the moratorium on evictions. It was a partisan vote, 6-3. It is what it is. I mean, that's kind of, you've seen that coming. We got 3 justices that are liberal. We have 6 that are conservative. All 6 that are conservative voted with business. They voted with the landlords. I'm not trying to villainize landlords at all. Like I told you, I've been on both sides. I've been a landlord, who wasn't receiving rent from people who didn't want to pay rent. And I've been a renter who didn't have the money to pay rent. So I get it. You know what I'm saying? I get it. But here's what that kind of was, if you ask me. They said 6.5 million renter households that are behind on rent. So that's a lot. 6.5 million. I've seen some reports that report double than that. Like there's 12 million Americans who are behind on rent. I believe that number. I'm just kind of underreporting that probably because that's sad and depressing. 72% of these renters owe rent to mom and pop outfits. And mom and pop outfits, they consider those, people who own 10 or less units. So if you own 10 or less units, you're just a mom and pop outfit. You're not a big business. And this is really killing you because I'd imagine the bigger you are, the more you have insurance and all types of stuff to deal with stuff like this. But even that's got to be wearing thin after months and maybe a year and some change and not getting rent from people. But you probably would still fare better off than a mom and pop because a mom and pop already doesn't have a lot of money to begin with. These are individuals who are renting dwellings, and when stuff like this goes bad, it goes really bad. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute too, but really these landlords are they're in it with their renters, and that's what they need to understand. They're in it together. The renters should not be against the landlords. The landlords and the renters need to come together because really they're in this thing together. I'll get to that. So it's estimated that more than 830,000 households in New York are behind on rent. That is terrible. The moratorium, it runs out October 3rd. Experts say there's some things that you can do. This is all of this stuff right here I agree with so tough. So listen up right here. Talk to your landlord. That's number one. There was a guy on the radio and he said the most important thing you can do is talk to your landlord. Let them know what's going on, Because I guarantee you, a lot of these landlords, even some of their buddies done got in their ear. Because they may have buddies who own dwellings. And maybe the person in their dwelling is just opting to not pay rent or doesn't care. So now they're projecting that onto you. That might not be your case. But he or she who is your landlord does not know that. They don't know your situation. They just know they haven't gotten rent in a long time, and a lot of people are hurt right now because of the pandemic. But let them know your situation. Let them know what's going on. Let them know about your child support payments. Let them know about your child care payments. Let them know about that elderly or sick loved one that you have in the house. Let them know this situation because they are human beings. And if human beings would start communicating with other human beings, we could start handling these problems in a humane way. You feel me? So that's what needs to happen. Y'all need to start talking to each other. So that's number one. Always, and I used to always tell the kids that I worked with, hey, look, when you get out here on your own, you're going to have some times when you can't pay your gas, when you can't pay your electric. Don't hide from these people, because when they catch up with you, now they're hitting you with $1 million late fee. So you're going to end up paying more anyway. Don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Don't, like Jay-Z said, don't run away from those problems. Run towards them. Call these people. Let them know what's going on with you. Let them know when you can get paid, when you get paid from your job and when you can pay them. Explain your situation, because they're human beings. They understand. And guess what? They want to work with you because they want their money. And they're going to do whatever they got to do to get it. So make it easy for you and them. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's up. So people need to know, never more talk to your landlord. I say, because most landlords do not want to evict, and that's real. Like I said, I've been on both sides. I know what that's like, especially if you have a person who typically pays their rent. You know what I'm saying? If this person who's your renter has always paid their rent, they fell in hard times. You know how that goes. You don't want to throw them out. You want to work with them. Believe it or not, sometimes if you're dealing with a private owner, let's say your rent is $600 a month. I bet you if you called that person and said, ma'am, sir, I could give you $300 this month. I can give you $300 this next month. I get $300 and just go ahead and put what I owe you. Just hold up there and I'm going to get it. I'll get to it. But let me at least give you half so I don't get super far behind. They would take that because something is always better than nothing, right? But that takes communication. You got to be talking to that landlord. So there's that. There's also online rental assistance. And this money is available through the CARES Act. So there was like, what, 3 point some trillion, 2 point some trillion dollars that came down the pipeline to these different states to go to this, to directly go to this problem of landlords not being able to collect rent because people haven't worked in months because we're in a pandemic, a national emergency. So please hit the internet and tap into these funds. A lot of y'all out there are eligible for this, but you just haven't taken the steps to search it out. So do that. And whenever I get, tips on things, I will bring it to you. All right, moving on. Let's deal with COVID. COVID got everybody crazy. You got anti-vaxxers, you got anti-maskers. That's all I can say. There it is. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, by all means, don't wear a mask. If someone else is wearing a mask, that is their business. There's no need to protest that person. There's no need to rip that mask off of their face. Let it go. That's their face. If they want to put a mask on, let them put a mask on it. Okay? That's their face. If they don't want to put a mask on it, let them not put a mask on it. And that's it. Now, there's a guy who politicized all of this and made it goofy like it is right now. And his name rhymes with Drumpf. So you know what's up with that. I wish people would stop feeding into this garbage, because it's garbage. We have had stuff like this before, and if you wanted to wear a mask, you could, and if you didn't, it wasn't a big deal. But it has become a big deal because there's a guy who just, I told people, here's how I describe Trump. Here's a guy who's seen America right for the picking with our racial issues, because they're always undealt with. They've never been dealt with. So then he comes along and he just rips the scab right off. So now that scab is just bleeding and it's all over the place and it's messy and nobody can clean it up. Everybody is getting soaked with the blood, basically, of this undealt with scab called racism in America that he so callously ripped off. Stop going for that. Let it go. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. A guy politicized it. Now masks are being politicized. Bringing that up, though, I do want to talk about a political character, Ron DeSantis, because he is the idiot. Here's a guy on Trump's jizzock, so tough. And he was, he ran on that. He was the guy who, you'll remember, he had the commercials where he had his toddler in a Trump onesie. That wasn't a good look. And then he was reading a book to his little toddler daughter about how he's building a wall. And then I reported on this show how the Republican Party, they love him to death. Now, in a race against him and Trump, he lost miserably to Trump. But if Trump wasn't in there, they said DeSantis is their guy. Wow. But this guy, so what does he do? He's doubling down on all the BS that is that Trumpeter BS and that Trump BS period of, wanting to bring, or telling, schools that he'll strip them of federal funds if they do come with a mask mandate. And all that is teachers trying to protect themselves. They got their own kids and their own families to worry about, but they still love and want to teach these children the way that they have for years. And now he got it to where they could get in trouble for wearing a mask. Come on. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, DeSantis is the idiot. And his approval rating shows it, because now it's 43%. My Lord. Yeah, the guy's underwater. Imagine that. With these horrible policies. You know what I'm saying? And being all over Trump's... that his approval rating is in the toilet, because he has shown right there that he cares more about Trump and Trumpism than his own constituents. Florida has the highest rates of COVID deaths in the country. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So he needs to get over himself. He needs to stop thinking politically, stop doing what's politically expedient, become a man, grow a backbone, and do his job, man. Do his job, because he is failing a lot of Floridians. There you go. That is what it is. Moving on. Let's talk about two terms that I am plumb sick of hearing in the media. But we're going to discuss them right now, because a lot of people talk about them, but they really don't know what they are, what they mean, or any. And I'm not really going to define them. I'm just going to tell you how I feel about them. Liberalism and wokeness. Oh, Lord. First of all, let's talk about Bill Maher and how he said wokeness bastardized liberalism. He went on to argue that wokeness inverts liberalism in so many ways. Liberalism, for example, was about achieving a colorblind society. Wokeness seems to be about always seeing race everywhere. I heard that and I'm like, you know what? I like Bill Maher, right? I've watched this show for years. I dig the dude. Even when he made that comment about being a house N-word, I like how he had Ice Cube come on the program and he faced that head on. There's a lot of white males who would have ran from that with their tail between their legs. They would have came out with some lame watered down apology and tried to act like it didn't happen. He invited Ice Cube from NWA on his show to teach him, and I think there was some learning done right there. That was a teachable moment, and there was some teaching done. So there's that. So right now, I'm going to take the time to talk to him about these two terms, liberalism and wokeness. Now, it's interesting, he would say liberalism, for example, is about achieving a colorblind society. No, nobody wants that. There's no such thing as a colorblind society. There will never be such thing as a colorblind society. That is stupid. Why would you want a colorblind society? To not see my color is to not see me. People kill me. Oh, I'm blind. I'm colorblind. I don't see color. Well, then you don't see that person, because a part of that person is their color. It just is. You know? So that's ridiculous when people say something like that, a colorblind society. We all should be colorblind. No, we shouldn't. We should be at a place where we can respect the fact that different people come in different shades, and it has nothing to do with the content of their character. You see what I'm saying? Not that we should forget that they have a color. And that's also a way to describe people. It gets ridiculous when you try to describe somebody and then the person acts like they can't put their color in there because they want to be politically correct or whatever lame mainstream term y'all want to throw at it this week. That's ridiculous. A lot of times I'm sure people struggle. They, you know what I'm saying? What they trying to describe Ed and what they gonna say? He was a middle-aged guy. Oh, really? Was he, maybe thinner? Was he black or white? Was he Asian? Was he Hispanic? Come on, man. Give me something. Give me what you know I'm looking for. But you don't want to say it because you don't want to sound a certain way. That's ridiculous. We got to get over that. So there's that. Wokeness seems to be about always seeing race everywhere. No. Like I just said, race is always a piece of it. Now, a friend of mine who watches the show, a dear friend of mine, not too long ago, we were having a conversation, and I think it was about the voting laws in Georgia. And I'm talking to him about the laws being racist. And he said, man, laws can't be racist. He said, come on now, man, race isn't about everything. And when I heard that, the first thing I thought is, man, I wish that were true. I wish that were true. I wish everything weren't about race. But I live in America, and every time I research anything from the jingle behind the ice cream machine to trivial stuff like why marijuana is illegal or stuff like that, it always comes down to what? Race. Okay? That issue in this country has been festering. It's never went nowhere. And unfortunately, it is everywhere. So wokeness is not about always talking about it, but wokeness is about let's deal with it. Let's not be afraid of it. Let's say, hey, guess what? This is what's going on, and let's all agree this is what's going on because we see it in front of our faces every day. We know this is what's going on. Let's deal with it. Let's not run from it no more. Let's not lie about it no more. Let's deal with it head on. Let's come up with some concrete things that knock down some of these walls that are white supremacy. That's it. That's what wokeness is about. Wokeness is being able to see something for what it is. Be like, hey, that was kind of insensitive. That was racist, man. Come on now. And let's admit that. You know that. You felt it like I felt it. Whether you can explain it or articulate it or not, you felt it. They felt it. Okay? So come on now. Let's stop turning a blind eye to it. So that's what's going on with those two terms, okay? No, we're not colorblind. So nobody wants that. You're going to see my color. You see what I'm saying? Phys ed music is a black male. He is a middle-aged, for lack of a better term, he's a middle-aged black male, right? So that is the truth, and that's fine. You know what I'm saying? I love that. Black is beautiful. You see what I'm saying? So that's what's up. You know what I'm saying? And woke is just being like, able to be like, hey, we got to dismantle, you know what I'm saying, this white supremacy that's around here that's making it hard for people of color to live on the planet Earth like human beings in peace. See what I'm saying? That's it. Moving on, I'm going to talk about something I never, ever talk about because I don't necessarily get into it all like that. And these days, after what you about to read, or about what I'm about to read to you, I really ain't feeling the NFL. So I've never been a big fan of football or anything like that. Not that I don't like it or anything, but sports just doesn't do it for me. Politics was always my sport. I always got into politics. So you know what I'm saying? But check this out. Several former NFL players and their wives petitioned the Justice Department to investigate whether the civil rights of hundreds and potentially thousands of black former players have been violated in the settlement of a landmark NFL class action concussion litigation. The complaints by former players focused on race norming, a controversial practice in neuropsychology in which black patients' cognitive test scores are curved differently than white patients test scores based on research that has found African Americans perform worse on some tests of cognition than Caucasians. It appears the NFL did this to save money because black players constitute 50% to 70% of the roster. So if you ain't get what I'm saying right there, I reported on this before. The NFL looks like purposely, gave these brothers a test that they knew was garbage, that they knew was going to assume that they were cognitively the deficit anyway, that their brains aren't as good as the white players' brains, right? And they did that on purpose because they don't want to pay them the same amount of money for those conditions that they're also getting from playing in the NFL. So just like their white counterparts, they're expected to go out there and beat their bodies up and bruise and dent their heads all in. And then when they lose their memory or do that stuff like kill their wives or kill themselves because they done went crazy from playing this game for all this money or whatever, and they got compensated well, but I don't know if it's worth your brain or your sanity, but whatever. Now, when there's money set aside for these guys, because they know they're going to get this, what is a CTC, that brain stuff or whatever, basically getting your head beat in for so long, you have there's going to be a backlash from now, right? So there's money set aside for these guys, but they're making sure that the black players don't get it because they make sure to give them a test that already assumes that they're not as intelligent as their white counterparts. Ergo, when their test scores are lower, they don't get the same compensation. That is racism on a plate, ladies and gentlemen. So there it is. If you still are watching the NFL after hearing this news I just reported, you need to check yourself, because that ain't right, man. What is this? That is garbage. I'm like, seriously? There you go. But see, that also leads me back to my last point too, doesn't it? How people always say everything's not about race. Even that's about race. Are you serious? It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. I was watching TikTok. I love TikTok. I was on TikTok, right? And there was a guy on there, and he was talking about the NFL. And I guess, like baseball and everything else, before they would let us into the NFL, there was a Negro league, of a Negro football league. And he had said that they were trying to set up a game between the Negro football league and the white football league. But then there was somebody from the white football league, he started buying all the Negro players or whatever for that game. So they was buying the talent. So at that time, that's when they broke. It was like, yeah, I guess we got to give these brothers a shot. Come on, man. Ridiculous. And then, you know what I'm saying? They won't let these brothers kneel or anything else. Some of them won't. Some of them have been open to it. Whatever. Once again, if you're still a fan of the NFL, after hearing the news that I just reported to you, you need to check yourself. Once again, you know what I'm saying? If you feel like some pushback, you got some comments, please leave it after the video. I want to thank everybody. If you like what you see, and please like and subscribe. You can hit me up at physheadmusic@gmail.com, or like I say, hit me up right after this video. And I'm also on Instagram, Urban Politics, and I'm on Instagram as physheadmusic. You know what I'm saying? So I can be contacted all those ways. I do not have an IPA of the week for this week, but I will get with you next week on that. And as always, see you around like a donut.